worldwide with AVNation at InfoComm 2023 in the Atlona booth with a, I'm not going to say old friend, Justin Kennedy. How are you, sir?
Tim, awesome, thanks.
Good to see you.
Glad to see you as well.
So we are standing in front of the velocity section of the Atlona booth. I remember when this was first introduced a number of years ago. I think the first time I saw it was ISC.
Okay.
Right? You guys have evolved that over the years. You've made additions. Talk about some of the additions that you're showing this year and for this show.
Absolutely. So, as you mentioned, when you saw the platform, it was probably quite a few years ago in its infancy. We've come a long way. We've made some really good improvements in the application. It's really three main pillars. It's control, which is what you would expect in our industry. It's controlling Atlona equipment. It's controlling third-party gear. It's creating macros and buttons and touch panels and those types of things. That's kind of the core of what the application is. But recently, we've added in several other pillars that have really enhanced the product line, specifically on the management side. So on the management side, we have built into the tool something called Velocity Device Manager.
Okay.
This allows for our customers to be able to access all of the equipment in the system, to check the status of the equipment, to manage the equipment, and specifically on the Atlona devices, we can actually do bulk firmware updates. We also have the ability to change password credentials. If an IT department, for example, has an IT policy that every network device has to change IP addresses every 90 days, you can do a bulk change inside of the device manager tool instead of having to touch every single device one at a time, every 90 days. And then the third piece for device manager is really what we call our configuration platform. And that allows you to configure all of the Atlona devices, set EDIT information, network details, so on and so forth. And the really cool piece about that is that I then have the ability to save that configuration for that device. And if a new device gets added to the network, I can automatically load that configuration into that device. And so again, it eliminates the issue of having to touch every single device to set it up, to configure it, to set settings on the device's web pages.
Yeah.
You can do it all from the Velocity Device Manager.
Talk for a second about a customer, let's say a higher education customer, right?
Okay.
They have 200 classrooms, 300 classrooms. Talk about the time saving and also the ability to standardize a setup, right?
Sure.
And the ability to kind of mass upgrade and mass, push firmware.
Absolutely. If I've got 300 or 400 devices on my college network, and the university is doing a rollout of new firmware, I can actually go in and I can select that firmware file, select the device that I want to update, and multi-select. So if I'm updating OmniStream, for example, we just came out with a really cool new 2.0 OmniStream platform firmware update. This tool would allow me to select all of those OmniStreams and then do a bulk firmware push. The benefit, though, is that instead of having to push it at a specific time, maybe class is in session, we want to make sure that the firmware update goes through properly and the reboot happens without someone in the classroom. You can schedule that firmware update as well, so I can set the time and the date for that firmware update. That bulk firmware update will then go through and transfer all of those files down. I can check the system, it's good to go, and then we roll on to the next day with the classes. So I can.
You just don't update on Friday.
You just don't update on Tuesday during class.
Old programming joke.
Or on Friday.
You don't update firmware on Friday.
There you go.
One other thing that you've got, and it kind of ties into that ability to see all the devices and touch all devices, and that's the remote gateway. Talk about that for a second.
Yes, absolutely. So the remote gateway is a new platform that we've just introduced. This is an annual license that you add to the gateways. We offer it in 3 tiers. It's a tier 1, a tier 2, and a tier 3, depending on the number of rooms that you're utilizing on the gateway. And what this system does, it's really solid integration tool for our integration partners that allows them to remotely access the system without having to do a truck roll. So They can set up service contracts with their customers. The customer, hey, I need to make a change to the touch panel, or I need to add some functionality to the system. Instead of the integrator having to send a truck on site to plug their laptop into the local area network, they can use the remote gateway service. That actually gives them a secure proxy connection that is patented through Secure TLS 1.2. It's all HTTPS encrypted over port 443. They now have access directly to that customer system where they can make any changes as if they were on the local area network.
So any of those things that you just talked about, the firmware update, the configuration
Absolutely.
changes. All right, you can do that from the integrator side. If I'm an integrator and I have 10 clients, 20 clients that have Atlona systems, can I see all of those in that system?
You can, absolutely. So it will give you a dashboard view of all of the different systems that are connected through the remote gateway service. You can then individually access those systems as you might need to. And then that also gives you the ability through our roles and rights, if the integrator wanted to give permission for the end user to also see that, they could log into their portal and see only their specific rooms and not see anyone else's in the system.
That was going to be my next question, is can I as a client see it? All right, so Justin, obviously we're here at InfoComm if somebody wants to come see us, or if they're not here, how do they connect with Atlona?
The best way to get in touch with us is www.atlona.com. And we've got all of our contact information set up there, as well as all of the product details and product information that we have across our entire portfolio.
All right, very good. Justin Kennedy from Atlona. For us, for AVNation, go by our website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. Follow along as we bring you more videos from the show floor of InfoComm 2023. All that and more at avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv.